Hello, everyone. Welcome to Medianama. In July this year, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India conducted a consultation on authorization frameworks for a range of telecommunication and telecommunication adjacent services. During this consultation, TRAI also asked stakeholders how internet exchanges should be regulated. To explain the current compliance requirements for internet exchanges and to give us a better sense of internet exchanges in general, we have with us Raunak Maheshwari, who is the director of Extreme Internet Exchange. Okay, so I'll just start things off with a very fundamental question
Mhm.
because I wanted people to understand. Talk to me briefly, of course, about the role of an internet exchange in the ecosystem.
Role of internet exchange in the ecosystem. So, till about 2014-15, broadband speeds, wireline broadband speeds, especially in India, that used to be delivered to your home through either BSNL or some other internet service provider used to be on an average 512 kbps with 10 GB of volume. The speed is 0.5 Mbps or 512 kbps, and the volume of data was limited to 10 GB. And from 2016 onwards, you started finding smaller ISPs providing 50 Mbps unlimited broadband, 50 Mbps broadband with unlimited data, which eventually they graduated to 100 Mbps unlimited broadband. And even now, you see in almost all the towns in India, you have 3 to 4 internet service providers. Apart from these telcos, Airtel and Geos of the world, apart from these, there are the other 3 to 4, at least 3 to 4 providers in all the towns in India who are providing up to say 300 Mbps or 400 Mbps or 500 Mbps. In South, there are ISPs who provide even 1 Gbps of broadband with unlimited data. How is this possible? I mean, what happened? What changed between 2014 to 2016, which was not done previously till 2014? What enabled this kind of speeds and this kind of services, which before that was not even thinkable that this kind of services can exist? Internet exchanges started mushrooming, especially Extreme. We were the first ones to create create an internet exchange ecosystem which actually provides benefits to the internet service providers who can then pass these benefits to their users. So this journey started in 2016 and continues.
Right, got it. So just like
Mhm.
I remember in 2022, TRAI had come out with recommendations about regulating internet exchanges and CDNs. So I don't think those have been implemented, but I just generally wanted to understand, are there any compliance requirements that internet exchanges have right now?
Uh, so first of all, let me tell you that Extreme is in litigation with Department of Telecom under writ petition in Honorable Delhi High Court, where Department of Telecom's letter to us saying that internet exchange services are covered under internet service provider license of USL, I mean Unified License ISP. We challenged this in Delhi High Court, and there is a status quo. This was given to us in 2019. It still remains. The next date of the hearing is 7th of Jan 2025. So this case is prejudiced, and I would not want to comment anything on it. So, but then, yeah, obviously, I can give you some brief history about this. Internet exchanges in India started in 2003 when there was a committee set up to consider how to start exchanges in India, and this ended up in resulting in NIXI, National Internet Exchange of India, which has been uh, providing exchange services in about 75 cities now. They expanded aggressively since 2022. Before that, they were providing it in only 8 cities. Now they are providing in 75 cities. This they were Nixie so far does not have an internet service provider license. So there is, and this is part of our petition also. So
Makes
apart
sense.
from this, I would not be saying anything else because the case is sub judice, and I don't want to make any comment which should irritate the court.
So because you brought up internet service provider licenses, I was looking at Airtel's response to the
Hmm.
same authorization consultation
Hmm.
that happened like in July. So I found them talking about something called content to content peering, saying that that shouldn't be allowed, like users shouldn't be allowed to carry out content to content peering on internet exchanges, saying that it would be inconsistent with the regulatory framework that currently exists for ISPs. So just like I wanted to understand what content to content peering means. And are there any overlaps in the services that internet exchanges provide and internet service providers provide?
There are no overlap of services on what internet services provide and what internet exchange provides. Internet service providers. So because I am fighting this case, there are some legal points that I would like to bring to your attention. Service provider and licensee is defined in TRAI Act 1997. And as per that, service provider is somebody who provides public telecommunication services to members of public. So basically, it is the end user who is receiving broadband services. He this service this kind of services are covered by ISP license. So these are services towards the end users. There is no way internet exchange can connect any end user. This is not how broadband is provisioned. So I am unable to understand what Airtel exactly wants to say when it is saying that end user should not be allowed to connect at exchanges IXP for any content to content peering. I am So I've been running the exchange since 2016. We are the largest internet exchange in the country. There is about 2.9 terabits of traffic flowing on the exchange on Extreme IX. And I don't understand the meaning of this statement that uh, no content to content peering should be allowed. That is, end user should not be allowed to connect at exchanges IXP for any content to content peering. There is no way any end user can connect to an exchange. Broadband does not work this way. Maybe Airtel would require to be a little bit more elaborate on what they exactly mean by this.
Right. Uh, Also, I wanted to understand because I read in the submission that Extreme had sent in, you know, arguing basically against including IXPs under the ISP license. Could you bring up the differences really between the two?
Between internet exchange and internet service providers. So yeah, internet exchange is benefiting and allowing traffic exchange between multiple peering content providers and the ISPs. It is not providing services to the end users. So the services are quite different, and hence our position is that internet exchanges should not be regulated. I mean, also why we say this is as a country we are significantly behind the curve when it comes to wireline broadband penetration or fixed broadband penetration. Fixed broadband penetration, as has been stated in World Bank reports, is crucial for economy. Every 10% increase in fixed broadband penetration increases the GDP by between 2.4 and 1%, depending on what is the status of the country. So we are at about 3 to 4% of fixed broadband penetration right now in the country. Just imagine the amount of space that we need to cover. And the other side of the argument is there are about 5,000 towns and semi-rural areas and villages in India, which has more than 50,000 homes. Now, if you are wanting to provide fixed broadband to all these 50,000 homes, it requires significant uh, deployment of internet exchange. All these towns will require internet exchanges. And if you are regulating, so the way regulations have happened in India, and we see that fixed broadband is only 3 to 4%. It tells you that last 25, 29 years, 30 years of regulations has not really helped broadband penetration this much. So our view is let's try non-regulating the sector or significantly reducing the regulations, simplifying things, and let's try this. And I'm quite sure because we have examples from across the world. We have Western Europe, Eastern Europe, North America, South America. We have countries like Japan, South Korea, etc., where the regulations are not so strict, or it is very easy to start internet services and internet exchange in these countries, and we see broadband penetration is significantly high. So yes, if we are to ensure that our next generation is ready to compete with our peers, for example, their peers in China or South Korea or Eastern and Western Europe, we will require significant uh, uh, significant increase in speed of penetration of wireline broadband and this requires removing of barriers. So hence our position that anything which is not requiring scarce resources like spectrum or no supervision of authority. For example, if you're not running copper cables, you can provide internet using copper cables also. So if you're not running copper cables overhead, which means there is why this is important. If you're running copper cables overhead, there is possibility that they also carry currents. So that can be an impediment to life and health. So things which are not requiring scarce resources like spectrum, or things which are not having effect on life and health, for example, FTTH broadband, these should not be requiring regulations at all, and general rules should apply. Anybody who wants to start this kind of services, they need to follow some certain general rules. They need not. They may only notify the department that they have started these services, and that's it.
Right, just to like clarify, so you mean because other countries have adopted a similar approach where they've not regulated internet exchanges and CDNs, because I remember this from your response. And those countries have fairly succeeded in the way they've regulated things. India could adopt a similar approach and see similar results. That's sort
Yeah,
of
I
what you're
mean,
trying to say.
we should follow the best practices that are there to see, that are evident in the world, that have helped. There is no reason to believe that they will not help in India.
Got it, got it. I also read in
Just to give you certain points about certain statistics, certain numbers to understand why this is important. So currently we have approximately 28 crore to 30 crore households in the country. Out of this, only 3 to 4% are connected on wireline broadband or fixed broadband. Now we have taken about 30 years to reach this level of wireline broadband penetration. If we continue with similar regulatory environment, why do we think that we are going to change the pace of wireline broadband penetration? Secondly, even if we somehow change the pace of penetration and double it, even then it is immense number of households to be connected that remain to be connected, and there is no way we would be able to achieve the goals of National Digital Communications Policy 2018 even in the next 10 years, 15 years. And if we want that these goals are achieved, then we need to do something quite different.
um, I have like a follow-up on this.
Mhm.
Why is wireline connectivity more important than wireless connectivity? Because we do seem to be increasing in numbers. Because I've been following TRAI's reports on connectivity, so I do see the
Mhm.
numbers for wireless data increasing. Wireline, of course, not so much. But why is wireline important?
So wireline is important because it gives reliability. So for example, let's think of some sectors like education or online education or providing government services. Uh, or productivity. For example, if you are working from a remote village where you have only connected via 4G, or in a dense city environment where the only connectivity you have is 4G or 5G, are you are you having this confidence on this 4G 5G connectivity that it will work and provide you best of the speeds at times when you require it? No, this reliability, no no wireless provider can provide you this reliability. No mobility provider can provide you this kind of reliability. Otherwise, our televisions would have SIM trays in
Right, interesting. I didn't think of it
it.
that. Um,
So there is inherent physics challenge to wireless connectivity. There is certain level of congestion beyond which you will not be able to provide good committed rates on your mobile broadband or mobile 4G 5G internet. Then now imagine if you are wanting to have a uh, this call that we are having, if there was no wireline connectivity at my office or your place, this call would have been having a lot of buffer or a lot of jitter. We don't want this. Considering if we are going to consider online education, telemedicine, and some other sectors which are which will grow if wireline broadband is provided, then we can't really depend on wireless connectivity or mobile connectivity for this kind of services. So the main difference between mobile connectivity and wireline broadband is that wireline provides reliability and committed internet bit rates, which no mobile broadband provider can provide, or say that they will be able to do this.
Got it. 2 points from the response that I wanted you to like sort of elaborate on were this mention of allowing internet exchanges to set up distributed exchanges. I just wanted clarification on what distributed exchanges are, why they're important, and also allowing internet exchanges to provide cash fill capacity for CDNs.
One by
Elaborate
one.
on this. Yeah.
Yeah, one by one. So first, let me tackle the distributed exchange point. So in a city like Delhi, for example, there are about 200 to 300 ISPs who are present in various pockets. Some in East Delhi, some in South Delhi, some in North Delhi, some in West Delhi. These ISPs, these smaller ISPs, do not have significant infra to connect to all the content providers spread across the entire city. So in Delhi, there are about 14 to 15 major data centers which have content. Now imagine a smaller ISP based in Janakpuri or Gurgaon, or for that matter Ghaziabad, being able to connect to all these 13, 14, 15 prominent data centers in the city which have content. It is not going to be possible for them. This is where exchange comes in. It becomes a mid-mile, and hence it is a requirement that exchanges be allowed to create distributed exchanges. Otherwise, I mean, see, India is the only typical country where you have this distributed exchange requirement. Otherwise, if you go to Western countries, uh, this kind of the cities are not as big as we have in India. They are not as widely spread or not so densely populated. So, plus the transport is quite cheap in Western Europe or Eastern Europe, for example, in even in Brazil, for example. So when the transport is cheap or the cities are smaller, the connecting to multiple data centers is easy. But when the transport is expensive, plus the city is as big as Delhi is, for example, and for a smaller ISP to connect through its own transport to all these 15, 16 important prominent data centers for pairing with the content providers, this is not easy. And hence, this is the role which exchange plays. And hence, it is required that exchanges be allowed to make distributed exchange in the country. So that is one. Two, about the point for cash fill capacity, there are many CDNs. So what are CDNs basically? CDNs are providing storage for the most popular content. So if, for example, there is a cricket match being telecast, so there is significantly high probability that a lot of users are at the same time watching the same content. This is the cricket match. Similarly, if there is a very popular movie released on some OTT, there is significant probability, high probability that a lot of users will be watching the same content over and over again. So it makes sense to store this content as close to the user as possible. This is the role that CDN plays. CDN is called content distribution network. So what they basically do is store the most popular content as close as possible to the user. So where do CDNs usually build their nodes? This is in the large internet service providers like the telcos, Airtels, Jios, Vodafones, BSNLs, and some still larger alternative ISPs like ACT, Exitel, Alliance Broadband, Hathway, etc. Outside these, for smaller ISPs, it is not possible for all the CDNs to go to all the smaller ISPs. For example, if there is a ISP in Janakpuri providing broadband connectivity to 3,000, 4,000 homes, it is not big enough for a CDN to provide an independent node. So what CDN does is CDNs provide nodes to aggregators like internet exchange providers. The internet exchange is an aggregator of networks. This includes content networks and also ISP. So they provide one single node to the internet exchanges. Now, to fill the storage, there is a requirement of capacity, which is internet capacity sometimes. And hence, it is a requirement that internet exchanges be allowed to provide internet capacity to these CDNs so that they can they are able to store data in the CDN node and distribute the content to the ISPs that are connected to the exchange.
Got it, got it. That makes complete sense. Uh, Two more points I had, which were both related to content blocking orders. So I was going through telecom companies' responses, and they were suggesting that the regulator should ask CDNs to block content instead of telecom companies or ISPs. I was hoping you could comment on that, but also like a related point that I had noticed in Extreme's submission was that internet exchanges should not be asked to block content. So, sort of,
Mhm.
I wanted to understand why Extreme believes content blocking orders should be restricted to ISPs, telcos, instead of these bodies, internet exchanges and CDNs.
So, so the nature of the exchange is, so there are so a network, an internet network has multiple layers, and this is a bit more technical. There is layer one, which is called the physical connectivity. Right, you are simply connecting a wire. And then there is layer two, where you create logical topology of the network. Then there is layer three, which is routing from one network to another network. And then there is layer four, which somehow starts addressing the content side of it. So you will not be able to do any blocking on layer one because it is simply connecting wire. I mean, you cannot tell a wire to block this content and not block this content. There is no way for you to do that, right? On layer one. Similarly, on layer two, you don't have a way to do it. Internet exchange works on layer two. So technically speaking, there is no possibility for internet exchange to block any content. It's just not simply possible. Layer three is where the ISPs are working. There is now what has happened from previous years, since about 20 years ahead ago today, this was most of the content was HTTP content. It was non-encrypted, which could have been blocked somehow by the internet service providers. Now, what has happened in the last so many years is content has moved from HTTP to HTTPS. Encryption has come in, and most of the content is now encrypted. This removes the possibility of blocking specific URLs on layer 3, which is where the ISPs operate. So, for example, if there is a URL of YouTube that has to be blocked, and now YouTube is 100% HTTPS. So there is no way for an internet service provider to block that specific content piece or that specific video that the government wants to be blocked. The internet service provider or the internet exchange does not have this capacity at all. This capacity is only available with the owner of the content, which is YouTube in this case.
So basically, what you're saying is that even ISPs have limitations in the kind of content that they can block.
So if you ask an ISP to block a HTTPS URL, for example, youtube.com/something something something something, the entire YouTube will get blocked for that ISP.
I also remember them talking about dynamic URLs from
Yeah,
the
exactly the same
earlier
point that I'm trying
OTT
to make.
consultation.
That's the same point I'm trying to talk about. That because of encryption, it is increasingly impossible for ISPs to block encrypted URLs and dynamic URLs. Not possible.
Got it. Thanks. These were all the questions I have. So much information from this interview. Is there anything you wanted to add as well?
I would like to add certain bit of urgency to uh, increasing the penetration of wireline broadband. Why? Because our next generation otherwise will not be able to compete with the likes of their peers coming from China, from Korea, from Taiwan, and from Eastern Europe countries and uh, South America. Okay, we have been able to figure out how to compete with the Americans, but going ahead, increasing competition from other countries, it is. And if we are not able to increase our internet penetration, we are already excluding ourselves digitally. There is significant digital exclusion even between Indian urban and Indian rural areas. For example, there are reports which mention that rural women, only 4% of rural women have dedicated device for connectivity to internet, as compared to approximately 30% in urban areas. There is significant difference between digital device or dedicated digital device for internet connectivity between urban male and urban female in India. So we already have significant digital exclusion. And if we are not changing this, this is only going to increase. Do we want our next generation to be excluded from the benefits of information age? So, and no, it is increasing. It is quite urgent because the amount, the immensity of the problem. I mean, just imagine we have 28-30 crore of households, and out of that, only say 2 crore of the households are connected over wireline broadband. We have significant landscape to cover, and it is urgent because other countries are significantly ahead of us. And if we want our next generation to compete with their peers, this has to be expedited exponentially.
Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. This was wonderful. Thank you. For those who want to learn more about internet exchanges and about the authorization consultation, you can take a look at our website.